This is the Lifestream Podcast, episode number 9 for October 21st, 2015. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Lifestream Podcast. I am Mike Ficklin, also known as Vader SW1 on the forums, and joining me on this mythic quest into all things Final Fantasy is a very full crew. Today we've got Carlie.
Grace Scott.
We've got Flintlock.
Hello.
We've got JasonTandro.
1.21 gigawatts!
We've got Lex.
Hello.
And we've got Ryushikaze.
Oh boy, Doc, things are bad. Things are real bad. We gotta go back to the future.
And basically what
Thank
this
you,
show...
boys.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Carlie.
Thank you, boys, for following the Back to the Future thing.
I love a good historical alternate history, you know?
I hate that movie.
Oh, go away.
I'm just sick of seeing it today, that's all.
So basically what this show will be about is for an hour or so every few weeks, we will discuss all things Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy related. We'll hit upon recent news and notes and delve into a different topic of discussion each episode. If you have a recommendation for something we should discuss, feel free to hit us up at lifestreampod@gmail.com or comment on the episode posts on the forums each week. We've got a very exciting episode for you folks. I've had some people asking for this. So this week we're actually going to talk about the music of the Final Fantasy franchise. But before we dig into that, just wanted to bring up a few brief news and notes here that I saw floating around. Start off with this news that the Dissidia Final Fantasy arcade game is going to be released in Japan on November 26th. I have not heard news yet on whether or not that's going to see a stateside release. My assumption is probably going to be a big fat no on that. Also, I saw that Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII is set to be released on Steam at some point in December. Didn't see a specific date on that.
Lex is probably gonna get it for no fucking reason. I think he wants to play it more pretty on his PC.
Accurate.
It is the best in this trilogy. It's actually legitimately fun.
I disagree with you. I think 13.2 is actually a more solid game than Lightning Returns, but I had a lot of fun with Lightning Returns.
It depends on what criteria you're considering. The story of Lightning Returns is acid trip stupid, but the gameplay is great, and the acid trip stupid story just improves it, in my opinion.
Stop talking right this second. You did not just describe the story of Lightning Returns as acid trip stupid next to 13.2. That is 1,000 times worse.
No, it's
okay.
a different... No, 13.2 is ecstasy type stupid. They're different drugs.
Okay.
Both the games
Lightning
are
is dripping acid. Her sister took E.
That would explain all the animals.
Wow.
Just saying. Like, both of their stories are terrible compared to 13.
I mean, one's terrible too.
But 13.2, I like 13.2 because I like the time travel mechanic. I like a good time travel game, and I think it handled it well. I like raising the monsters, even though they can be frustrating as all hell. The combat in Lightning Returns and the ambience in Lightning Returns was a lot better than in 13.2. But I think 13.2 overall was a better game. That's just my 2 cents. I liked all 3 of the games for what they were. I just wish 13 wasn't so linear. 13.2 didn't have that ball-crushing ending, and Lightning Returns had a good story.
Minor demands, really.
Pretty much.
Square Enix also announced that they will have a small presence at Paris Games Week. There's expected to be new information released about Final Fantasy Explorers, and apparently no new information will be given about Final Fantasy 15 at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
But what will we talk about next podcast, Mike?
Right? Mike's going to have to get creative again. The next piece of news I had on here was just a real brief update on the Lifestream.net podcast Final Fantasy Retrospective series. As you probably heard on the first Retrospective series episode that we posted up a couple weeks ago, we are on our way to playing through Final Fantasy II, and I was just curious. I wanted to catch up real quick with Ryu and Jason and see where they're at in the game.
I have just gotten to the snowy area. I can't remember what it's called, and I've been spending
Falls,
a lot
I think?
of Summit Fall. Well, it's before Summit Falls. It's the
It's the town.
The town. Before I'm about to go into. I'm just south of the area where you use the snow thingamajigger. I've been spending so much time power leveling that I haven't done much story. I've also been exploring because I the one thing I really have to give credit, the thing I really like about Final Fantasy II is the world is really open and feels like you can go anywhere at any time. That's pretty ambitious for a Famicom game.
You actually can go pretty much anywhere. You can't necessarily survive, but you can go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. And that's pretty cool.
Ryu, how about you?
The Dreadnought sequence.
Holy smokes!
I'm not gonna.
So you're actually, I take it you've not spent a lot of time power leveling then.
No, I did spend some time, but after that, it was just a straight shot. After a point, I find the hardest part is getting my MP up, and once I got enough MP, I feel like it's a good time to keep going.
Yeah, there's a spell for that. I can't remember what the name of the damn spell is now. But yes, that's Osmos. That's what it is. Osmos works perfectly for raising that MP up.
Yeah. But yeah, just you'd spend a little while once you get like everything up to level 2 or 3 spell wise. Beyond that, until you get Osmos and get your MP going crazy, it's just not too worth it to stay in one place and beat yourself up.
Yeah, I've actually, the furthest I've advanced the story is actually just to get the damn canoe. I have been power leveling the shit out of my characters. I've got all my spells up to level 8, and I'm actually working on spamming the shit out of the Toad spell so that I can get it to level 16 so that I can play the little puzzle game once I get the snowboard thing, and I can get myself some decent weapons and armor with that. So
yeah, there's also is it which version are you playing specifically?
I'm playing the 20th anniversary version on PSP.
Okay. Oh, I don't know if they left it in on the PSP version, but I think on the Dawn version you still can use level 16 Toad to trivialize one of the last bosses.
Really?
Yeah. It has to be level 16, because otherwise the spell level isn't high enough to affect them.
I was going to say, the level 16 you have to get to anyway to do the puzzle game, to get the weapons and such that I'm talking about.
But yeah, they missed a flag on... It's not the final Emperor fight, but...
I take it it's one of the fights with the Emperor, though.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah. I'm sure it's out there on some kind of FAQ out there.
Did Ryu die?
Real quick, while Ryu's looking that up, Flint actually has a special announcement he wants to make.
Well, I wouldn't call it a special announcement. A few months ago, we started gathering nominations on the Livestream forum for a music sort of bracket contest, and it kind of stagnated, but I've decided that I'm going to revive it. So I'm planning to reopen nominations because I know we've had a lot of new members and maybe even some people listening to the podcast want to sign up and nominate their favorite songs. And then after that, we'll put them into brackets and determine what the best song in the Final Fantasy series is. Hopefully by the time this podcast goes up, then I'll have an article on the front page about it.
Yeah, so you should have plenty of time to do that. I'll probably have it up on Saturday, so...
Sounds good.
Ryu, did you find what you were looking for?
No, I haven't found the which boss is weak to it. Yet.
That's all right. We can
Oh well.
We could talk about that when we actually get into the our breakdown of it in the retrospective. Yeah, so with the news and notes out of the way here, we'll move into the main topic of discussion, which is about the terrific music of the Final Fantasy series.
You can literally hear Jason's nerdgasm.
Yes. Yeah. There's no words for how much I love the fact that we're doing this topic finally, because I have an unhealthy obsession with the music of Final Fantasy. And, like, seriously, when everybody was out in the early 2000s listening to whatever terrible boy bands were out during that time, and whatever crappy pop music was out during that time, I was sitting in my room playing video games, listening to the Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 soundtracks. Just, that was what I listened to, and some other game music aside.
And sing Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. I'm not saying it because I was listening to them or anything like that.
So, Jason, I know you've really been looking forward to this here, so we'll let you go ahead and get started here. What's one of your favorite Final Fantasy soundtrack on the whole, and why?
On the whole, absolutely has to be Final Fantasy VI. And I gave some listener feedback, and I explain why. Ultimately, what it boils down to is every Final Fantasy soundtrack has a couple of songs that completely go against the grain, and sometimes that works. Sometimes it's like, okay, yeah, I can get into this. A perfect example, Final Fantasy VII has some ridiculously weird, delightfully odd music like Fiddle de Chocobo and stuff like that. Completely off tone, but it's hilarious, and you work with it. And sometimes it is ungodly annoying, like Final Fantasy X-2 and Real Emotion, and sometimes it makes you sad. But Final Fantasy VI doesn't have that. It has unique tracks, but everything still somehow fits together in one nice overarching tone of gameplay, and the music itself, just from start to finish, every single track is a masterpiece. I literally have listened to the entire soundtrack start to finish many times. I cannot find a weak link. There's not a track I'm like, gotta skip that. None of them. They're all amazing. The weirdest one is Johnny C. Bad, but even that still fits with the atmosphere. And as far as music goes, you can keep your One-Winged Angel. Final Fantasy VI has 3 absolutely essential pieces of Final Fantasy music: the opera scene, Dancing Mad, and the ending medley. The ending medley is, to this day, the longest single track of any Final Fantasy ever, and Dancing Mad is almost universally praised as one of the best final boss fights of all time. And the freaking opera scene, like that by itself did almost as much for legitimizing the music of Final Fantasy as Theme of Love from Final Fantasy IV, which actually became part of Japanese school children curriculum, but that's another story.
They play it on recorder.
Yes, thank you, Ryu. He knows what's up.
It's terrifying.
Are you
because
talking
recorders.
About the Theme of Love?
From Final Fantasy IV.
It's
interesting.
6th grade music is it's on the curriculum. It's for recorder class.
Very interesting. I didn't know that. Flintlock, how about you? You got a favorite soundtrack on the whole?
You put me on the spot here. I just love so many of them. I do agree with Jason that 6 is a brilliant one, but I'm going to have to be boring and say that I can't pick a favorite.
That's all right. I'm probably going to have a tough time with that question too. Lex, how about you?
Okay. I like most of them for what they are. There are tracks I don't like on every FF album. There are tracks I adore on every FF album, including right up to the Lightning Returns trilogy. But I have to say the soundtrack that I like the most for what it is Final Fantasy VIII, which is probably going to be quite controversial, but the reason...
I'm rolling my eyes.
Well, that's because you don't like the game, but the soundtrack is phenomenal, and the reason it's phenomenal is because of what it represents. Because it represents a turning point in, for the first time, a complete change in style in the way Uematsu composed Final Fantasy soundtracks. Because, good lord, circumflex accent. Because it's more orchestral than any so far, and you could just chalk that up to like a limitation, and obviously the sound systems that they had to use before that, but it's also more atmospheric. And the fun thing about Final Fantasy VIII is that it doesn't have character themes. So it's the only FF soundtrack composed by Uematsu that doesn't have specific character themes when the characters have names. And all of the tracks are really, really fitting for what their purpose is. It's atmospheric. You can it feels like a movement when you're listening to it. It's less like, here's a fun theme. It just so atmospheric. I love it to bits. And I noticed yesterday I got a new phone. So I was going through that annoying process of like picking and choosing songs to put in my phone. The soundtrack that I took the most tracks from was Final Fantasy IX, followed by Final Fantasy VIII, and then 6, then 7, and then you don't need to know the rest. But I also think 10 has a phenomenal soundtrack just because of how diverse it is and how completely different all of the tracks are. So I would have to say it's a toss-up between 8 and 10, with 9 probably having most of my favourite tracks on it. But if I had to pick one, I would pick 8 for that reason.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack definitely feels like it feels like a complete opera when you take out the context of the game itself, the storyline of the game itself. If you can set yourself aside from your hatred of the storyline, the soundtrack to the game is beautiful. I can't argue with that, Lex.
I have it in my car, and it's the only one I physically have in my car, like the CDs, and I can put it on and listen to it because it is just, if you don't know the game and you sit and listen to that soundtrack, it can transport you so easily. That is one of the best things about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, question. Why are you having CDs still? I mean, you have an iPod and an iPhone?
The car I drive does not have an aux input. I have to use a radio transmitter, and the power thing in the car is temperamental, so I do still listen to CDs in the car.
Finally gave out.
Carlie, how about you? Your favorite soundtrack and why?
Unsurprisingly, my favorite soundtrack is from 9.
That doesn't surprise me. It's your favorite game as well.
Unsurprisingly,
It surprises
9.
me. I thought your favorite was Unlimited Penetration.
I can't even remember a stupid stuff on that weird ass show. Yeah, we called that was the fan name that we gave. What was it called actually?
Unlimited.
Final Fantasy?
Yeah, just Final Fantasy Unlimited.
Did you guys do a riff tracks of that one too?
Oh, we did the whole damn series.
Oh my god.
We did commentary. That mostly was just making sex jokes.
You're gonna have to send me a link to
Imagine
that too, Ryu.
It's on the website.
Oh my god.
Imagine that.
Anyways.
Yeah, imagine us making sex jokes. That's so unlike us.
Anyways.
And our international listeners are like stupid Americans.
Flint and Lex are like stupid Americans.
Uh-huh.
They're both jealous that they're not getting to make all the dirty sex jokes too.
I was
grapes.
excuse me, I'm on that commentary, so
Anyways, Final Fantasy IX favorite soundtrack. Okay, Breed.
I'll try and drag the conversation back to normality.
There is no such thing.
Maybe not on the live stream. I do love the Final Fantasy IX soundtrack, and obviously it's a very thematic soundtrack with the main theme being used in almost all the pieces, pretty much. Well, I don't know, maybe half of them, and I like that. But there's a few pieces that I feel like could have done without it. For example, the theme that plays in Oilver, or Oilvert, I pronounce it, is
Oliver, I think.
Yeah, it's a remix of the main theme, and I don't like it at all. I wish it wasn't on the soundtrack, and that is one of the songs I skip on it. So I don't know, Carlie, do you feel the same?
The soundtrack's not perfect, and Nobuo Uematsu kind of used some of the songs from Final Fantasy VI, probably one too many, where some people just say it's kind of like a Final Fantasy VI again, the soundtrack. Roses of May is one of them, and that's one of my favorite from Final Fantasy IX. Melodies of Life, I think that one's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great song
too. Yes,
I just have to say, just to clarify, Flint, are you talking about the main theme of Oilver or whatever it is, or are you talking about the theme that plays when you're talking to like the faces? That's like the overly voice synthesized one, because that's the one that kind of annoys me.
Yeah, I think I had that one in mind. And there's a couple of others as well. Like one of the themes that plays in Alexandria is like a really, really slow version of the main theme, kind of orchestral, and I don't like that one either.
Yeah, my favorite remix, apart from the original, which is, I mean, the original is just amazing. I think one of my favorite ones is the one that plays when you're doing the briefing for the Four Temples, that kind of faster paced one. I like that one. Sorry, back to you, Carlie.
You're Not Alone. I think that was amazing too. Baby's theme, love Baby's theme. Sedan's theme, the main theme. I like that it's more upbeat than what you usually see, and perfectly fits into what Final Fantasy IX is.
I've got to say, my favourite part of the 9 soundtrack is the whole, like, almost everything that plays in Terra. So Terra, Brandbal, and Not Alone are like my 3 favourite tracks from that whole album. I think they're phenomenal.
Excellent.
Yeah, agreed.
Ryu, how about you?
So, I'm another one of those where all of my favorite tracks are from all over, because the battle against the 4 Fiends and its many alternate titles is my favorite track basically ever.
Is that the
Final
4
Fantasy.
Mirrors?
Huh?
What soundtrack are you talking about?
That's Final Fantasy IV. Golbez's 4
sorry.
generals.
Bye. Apologies.
But then there's Battle on the Big Bridge, which is Gilgamesh's theme. And special mention to Final Fantasy Legend 2 on Eat the Meat, because that song will get stuck in your head forever, but it's great. But I have to say that my favorite is Final Fantasy Tactics.
It's an unconventional choice.
It's a great game with great music.
I was going to say, can you delve into a little bit about what you like so well about it?
So, it's one of those. It doesn't have a specific musical theme, but every song is just great. There's so many that are perfectly selected for their scenes. The battle music is great. The pre-battle music is great. They've got a song for selecting who you're going to take into battle that just makes you feel like it's the dawn before a battle in the middle of war.
Yes.
And it just gets it's one of the perfect sort of, this music fits war, because it's Fantasy War of Roses with a bit of extra stuff tacked on, but it's got it doesn't have period appropriate music, but it's got narrative appropriate music, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
like if you were watching a movie about the actual War of the Roses, this is the sort of music that you'd expect. It's got a lot of not straight up marches, but playing with the idea of a march. To sort of get you, and then it's all good. That's all. It goes literally from and when I say that it fits the theme, like they've got a music for these 3 assholes in town are trying to steal something, go fight them, to that is a dead god we're going to make sure doesn't come back to life. Well, Who are you then?
You know, the soundtrack from that game did something amazing. It actually left Ryu without words.
Very rare that you catch Ryu without being able to say anything at all. Jason, I heard you start to speak up about this particular soundtrack. Do you have some specific insights to the soundtrack?
Pretty much everything that Ryu was saying. It's a very solid soundtrack, very unique soundtrack. Kind of goes more for the grander scale than some of the other tracks do. In particular, there's a few really good ones. All On is a good theme. Apoplexy is amazing. I think it's called Trisection.
Yeah, Trisection. It's one of the. It's actually one of the standard battle themes.
But it's
it's boss theme quality. And for what it makes you feel like, because in Tactics, every random battle is a boss fight. Like, it matters. And it makes you feel like it matters.
I agree.
The Final Fantasy Tactics soundtrack would fit Game of Thrones.
And just about as many people died in my
something
Tactics game.
similar before.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Carlie?
I think he mentioned something similar before about Tactics resembling Game of Thrones.
Well, I mean, they're both about medieval assholes killing a lot of people. What more do you
Ryu,
want?
they're not all assholes, just
Okay.
the vast majority
You're
of
right.
them.
Each one of them has 2 to 3 non-asshole characters, Ramza and Arya. There we go. I bet Arya also goes into bars and asks for milk.
Hey, let's be clear on this, Ryu. It's not a bunch of medieval assholes killing things. It's a bunch of medieval assholes and Cloud Strife killing a bunch of things.
Well, in that case, we also have to include the golem, the dragon, the Wonder Twins,
Chocobo.
the Chocobo, Balthier in the remake.
Is Balthier in the PSP remake?
Yeah, he is.
The War of the Lions remake?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
It's heavily implied, but never confirmed, that he is the ancestor of brain fart, your gunner in the game, Mustadio.
Interesting. Yeah, so I've been debating with myself for a while now about what my particular favorite soundtrack is on the whole. Agonized, really. Final Fantasy IV, I absolutely adore its soundtrack. I love the love theme. I love the opening theme to the game. It really, to me, the opening theme to Final Fantasy IV, the whole opening to Final Fantasy IV really is one of the best, I think, in the entire series. But the more I sit back and think about it, the more I really feel like Final Fantasy VI actually has the better soundtrack on the whole. The whole time Jason was sitting here talking about it, I'm like, there just isn't a bad song on the entire soundtrack, and I don't mind saying that the opera piece is a fucking masterpiece. That by itself sells the soundtrack. Maybe that's a bit of nostalgia coming out because fond memories of playing that scene for the first time. But it gives me the chills. It gives me goosebumps. It hits me, as the kids are saying these days, in the feels. Final Fantasy VI, far and away, is the best soundtrack, in my opinion, that Nobuo has ever done. I thought we might spend some time also talking about just some random favorite songs here, and what I'd like to do is I will compile a list of these here, and I will try to link up some YouTube links on the show notes here, so that
we should create
if
a
people
playlist.
aren't familiar, we can set that up for them.
Playlist, yes.
So I will keep tabs on this. Anybody go.
Why don't we go round robin style? Like each of us just like name one and then go off for a little bit on that. Just that way everyone gets like equal input.
That's fine. We'll start at the top of the list with Flint.
Why do you always come to me first?
We can start with me if you want, and that'll give you time to
Yeah,
think.
please do.
Okay, good, because since 8 was mentioned, I have to give credits and start things off with the first freaking opening theme, Fithos Lusek Wikos Vinosek. That is absolutely, when Lex was talking about how such a big change, the entire soundtrack represents such a huge change in the style, the orchestration, the way it sets up, just everything about that screams new generation, new opening, everything. I mean, because you have to keep in mind, when I was playing, I went from Final Fantasy VI on the SNES, was 3, of course, and I went straight to Final Fantasy VIII. I actually missed 7 until I went back and played it later. So I went from 6 to 8, putting this thing on my PlayStation 1, and then this cutscene comes at me in this gigantic orchestral music with a Latin choir singing Latin and then this fake Latin in the Fithos Lusek Vikos Finosek. It absolutely blows you away the first time you hear it and when you see this cutscene. And even people who are like on the fence about whether or not it's a good game or straight up hate Final Fantasy VIII tend to like this feature, this particular song, and it's one of the ones that gets played the most often in like best Final Fantasy tracks of all time for damn good reason. It's probably one of the best tracks individually across the board.
I have to say, all of those are all of the kind of source songs on the album are fantastic. If I had to pick a favourite, it would be Premonition.
Yes, good call.
Staying with 8 for the time being, The Man with the Machine Gun. Just a great sort of blood pumping, high energy song.
And I am terrible with the actual track names of the songs. If I recall, is that the one that plays when you do the Laguna flashbacks?
That is the Laguna fight song. And
Okay.
Maybe I'm a Lion is also pretty good, but for me, it's all about, Machine Gun.
My friend Jacob was talking about that song, and he says he was listening to it when he was playing it, and he's like, this is this thing that you could hear in a dance club at the time.
For sure. Flint, did you think of one?
Yeah, well, from Final Fantasy VIII, I do love Maybe I'm a Lion, but in terms of like my overall favorites, I think it has to be Genova from Final Fantasy VII. I can just
For sure.
never stop listening to that song. But I'm not.
If you do, Mother will get upset with you. You don't want to make Mother upset with you. Calling you.
Shout out to Genova Absolute, because that is a phenomenal Genova track also.
Yeah, but second best, I have to say.
I actually agree with that. I think the original's better.
Carlie, how about you?
Thank God we're not an 8 because I can't name a single song from 8.
You don't have to.
From 7, I would say my favorite are the piano pieces, Iris theme and Tifa's theme. I actually like Tifa's theme a little bit more than I do Iris theme. And one of the members from our side, Jabs, she did a mashup of Tifa's theme and A Whole New World, and I thought it was amazing.
Interesting. Are we talking about like A Whole New World from Aladdin?
Yes.
Interesting. For me, the name of the damn song is eluding me. Jason, the fight theme from Final Fantasy XIII.
Fight theme from Final Fantasy XIII is Blinded by Light.
I fucking love that song. I know Final Fantasy XIII is a much maligned game, but there are pieces of that soundtrack that are terrific, and that the fight theme is so good. I can't help but find myself tapping my foot and playing a bit of air guitar when I hear Blinded by Light. So
I agree with you. Going from Blinded by Light, I want to add what is it called? Defiers of Fate. That's the one that plays, I think, when you're fighting Eidolons. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Eidolons
but Defiers of...
and what's his wall?
No, that's not Defiers of Fate. Defiers of Fate is like a scratchy sounding track that plays in like the dark the dark part where you fight soldiers and you're in Hope's dad's apartment.
You're right. I'm wrong. It's I'm gonna listen. It's I think it's just called Eidolon Battle.
That is what it's called.
Thank you.
It's called Eidolon Battle. Yeah, no, that is. I think that's my favorite battle theme from 13 for sure.
It's not a battle theme, but Pulse to Chocobo. I actually rather like that.
That's a good one.
What is it again?
Pulse to Chocobo. It's one of the 2 Chocobo remixes for the game. The Cocoon to Chocobo, or whatever it's called. I think it has a slightly different name, but isn't quite as fun, in my opinion.
It's irritating as hell, is what you mean. that first off, it goes in loops and they never resolve the melody, which first off musically drives me nuts. And then they have the obnoxious, airy lyrics that don't even sound good, and it's just my ears were bleeding.
Chocobo!
Oh my god, my ears were bleeding when I first heard that. I thought that was going to be the only Chocobo theme, and I died a little inside. But Pulse to Chocobo redeems it. It really is an amazing track.
I haven't picked a favorite yet. Can I just say?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Lex. I don't know how the hell I missed you.
I think we've all just been
probably because I talk a shitload about nothing. No, I said that Premonition was my favorite of the Sorceress suite in Final Fantasy VIII. But if I was to pick a favorite, there are too many. But I really like Birth of a God, and I like Birth of a God the most out of all of Final Fantasy VII's battle themes. And I'm going to be unconventional, and I really want you to share a link in the playlist to Divine Love from Lightning Returns' soundtrack, because that is the most epic beginning to a final boss theme I have ever heard.
I'm trying to remember which boss fight is that from?
Divine Love.
Yes.
It's isn't it the first?
Wait! Don't say anything, because it's kind of a huge spoiler.
Oh, okay, I got you. Well,
yeah, it's like the final. Divine Love is the final boss theme. Obviously, Birth of a God is Sephiroth, but like Divine Love is what plays at. There's only one final boss in Lightning Returns.
I'll just spoil it. You kill Snow.
And and Divine Love is the track that plays at the very, very beginning, the first stage of the fight, and it's my favourite track for years in Final Fantasy, because it's just nuts, it's crazy. The one that follows it is more nuts and more crazy. It's like the modern day Dancing Mad, but Divine Love is maybe the first minute. I think I just love it so much.
Can we talk about Final Fantasy XII, because we haven't mentioned anything, and I love Kiss Me Goodbye.
You know, for me, Final Fantasy XII's soundtrack is sort of like Final Fantasy XI's. It's kind of bland. And I think that's why nothing from Final Fantasy XII sprung immediately to mind for me.
I kind of agree. I think overall the soundtrack is not the strongest element, but I will say there are a few standouts. One for me from 12 would be Dalmasca Esther Sand. That's a nice adventurous piece, very solid, really gets you amped up to play the game. Probably my favorite of all the area themes, I would say.
12, my favourite track from 12. By the way, I used to think the same way as you guys, that like 12 was kind of ambient and not as, stand out as the rest of the FF soundtracks, but having recently revisited it, I've completely revised my opinion. It's really atmospheric, and the tracks really suit the areas they're meant for. So as a soundtrack, I think it's fantastic, but again, it's not one I'm going to sit and listen to on a daily basis. But my favourite track from 12 is called To the Place of Gods, and it is the track that plays when you're in the Great Crystal. It is a great track. It's so good. And also I like one that I can't remember the name of.
You like tracks with the word God a lot.
That's true.
I mean,
That's
hell,
not
even if
intentional.
when the word God's not in it, he's still mentioning divine, so...
There's one that I really love, and it's from Crisis Core, and it's The Price of Freedom. Every time I listen to that song, I start getting teary-eyed because I think
I'm sorry, I squeed. It's a good one.
I thought you were gonna get into this huge like rant or something. I was like, okay, let's see what Jason says.
No. Just is all you need.
I love the song because it reminds me of Zack, and I wish Zack actually had like a proper theme for him, and he doesn't, and that bothers me a lot.
Fulfilled desire.
Yeah, that's actually, I was getting ready to bring that one up, Lex, especially given the fact that you have professed your love for that song previously, so...
Yes, but I feel like it's cheating. Like, I was going to choose that as my favourite track. I feel like it's cheating because it's a medley and it incorporates so many 7 tracks and Crisis Core tracks, but it's phenomenal. It is so good. Props to Ishimoto for that one.
And it doesn't have God in it.
He's looking for it.
I'm also going to throw out my absolute favorite song from the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is Ahead on Our Way. I love that song.
That is my favorite piano collection song of all the piano collections.
There is there are actually 2 really good covers of that on the Materia album. The very first track on the album is a cover of Ahead on Our Way, and it's vocal and orchestral, and it's really nice.
I think
I know. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
I'm just adding to 7. I think my favorite track from all of them is a toss-up between either A Secret Sleeping Deep in the Ocean, which is probably like one of the most relaxing pieces in any Final Fantasy, or just Still More Fighting, the boss theme. Call me boring, but the boss theme kicks ass.
What's the music that plays in the Northern Crater?
What one though? Like what visit to the Northern Crater? The first one or the second one?
I think it's the second one.
At the very end of the game, Judgment Day. Judgment Day is a good track.
And also an outstanding Van Hagar song.
Oh, what is this sorcery?
I must have I must be showing my age. Jesus. Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, Judgment Day.
Oh, I know who that is. My dad is a classic rock buff. Don't worry. I was just like, I'm confused about. Oh, right, you're talking about the title of the song. I was like, is that a cover?
Yeah. Sorry.
What's your to the battle teams? What's your favorite?
Genova.
From each game?
I already said that.
Is this just a generally be going round and deciding whose favourite battle themes?
Oh yeah, good luck.
Sure.
Because I said Birth of a God, but that's like that's not really a battle theme. It's more of like a boss theme. So if I was to pick a favourite battle theme from an objective standpoint, I might say Blinded by Light. But having played that game, it gets old so quickly that I grew sick of it really quickly. And battle theme, pick one quickly.
Do you have an interesting way of picking?
I don't know.
I really like the battle theme from Final Fantasy XII, actually.
What one?
Yeah,
There's
that's a joke.
loads?
Sorry.
Alright.
Bit late to the party there.
Because there like isn't a battle theme. It just wherever you are in the world, that's the music that plays, and I really like that actually.
For
mine are 7 and 9.
For battle theme, well, I'm gonna have to mention 2 that I already mentioned because they're both really good. But Trisection from Tactics and Machine Gun.
I'm gonna go with Machine Gun and Final Fantasy VI's battle theme.
Oh, that's
Just
one of the best.
I think it's just called the battle theme is simple, but it's a simple loop, but it actually has a really nice feel to it. And let's not even talk about the boss theme, which as far as
Wait a minute. 6's battle theme. What one is 6's battle theme? Because I think it's 6's boss theme. The decisive battle, is that 6's boss theme?
6's boss theme is the decisive battle, which is the best boss theme in the entire series, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Well, I think that theme is absolutely phenomenal. So I'll pick that for this category. But I really want to say that I can't stand 6's actual battle theme. I don't like it at all. It annoys the living hell out of me. I think 5's battle theme is far superior in so many ways.
Agreed.
Five's battle theme is actually really good. Not to mention it, I have that's pretty good. For me, Final Fantasy VI's boss theme is tops. The battle theme, I really like it because I like what they do and I like how it has kind of an Arabian vibe. But I will admit that it is kind of unimaginative because it's like a 30-second loop.
I just taking your head out of the objective headspace of it being like simple and stuff, I just don't like the track. Like, I don't like listening to it, and I think it might just be from like the general encounter rates and stuff. When I first played through that game and I didn't really know what I was doing, I found it frustrating, and that may be adding to like the reason that I don't like it. But I do think the boss theme from 6 beats the rest of them by far.
Agreed. Clearly. Just top of the line there. It's called Decisive Battle. I think you're adding that. Yeah, perfect. There's a bunch of really good battle music in Final Fantasy 14. And I don't know how many of you, I know Lex, you've played it, but it's just like the music in there is actually really amazing, especially for MMO music. The battle theme, which God escapes me now. I don't know the track for it.
It might be, but are you thinking about the one that's kind of like the prelude? It has the like dun 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 dun, that one.
Yeah, the one that plays is like it's the dungeon boss battle.
Yes, yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good battle theme as well.
Hang on, dungeon boss battle theme.
Well, while we're on the subject of the prelude, I have to take a quick cheat and say that one of my absolute favorite songs is the version of the prelude that came from Final Fantasy VII. I absolutely love that version of the prelude.
I agree. I completely agree with that. However, one thing I will say is that Final Fantasy V has exactly the same prelude, but just with Super Nintendo music, which I only noticed the other day when it was like played. It was shuffled onto it in my phone, and I was like, "Oh, this must be from an earlier FF because it's not the 7 version." And then it was like, the same kind of background noise kicked in at the same point, and I was like, "This is 7's theme. Like, this is 7's prelude." But like, 5 and 7 have the exact same prelude. It's just that obviously 7's is slightly nicer because of the sound fonts.
I never realized that.
Go listen.
Call me a sucker for the new gen sounding to it, but I really think the prelude in 12 was actually really amazing.
Yeah, I really like that one too.
Is that the one is that the one that's not really the prelude though? It's like it's the Final Fantasy theme, but it's orchestral. It plays when you put the disc in and you see the Square Enix logo and stuff.
It's called Loop Demo, which is like it takes the prelude and then it goes into the anthem and then it goes into a medley. So you're right. It's not technically a prelude, but I like it. I just thought it was a really good way to start that game off.
Fair.
In other words, you're talking about the song that plays over the opening cinematics, right?
No, it's when you're at the start menu.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's called Loop Demo. You won't find it under 12 Prelude probably. Yeah, you will. But by the way, the name of that battle theme was A Fine Death. I looked it up. From 14.
Ironically, my all-time favorite Final Fantasy track is from a Final Fantasy game that I do not like, and I think it's completely overhyped, and that's Final Fantasy X. And my favorite track is JasonTandro.
Oh, that's a good one.
I was going to say something about the opening themes, actually, because I was looking at the list of songs that I nominated for the music contest that we're running, and I've got the opening themes from Final Fantasy V, Final Fantasy VI. I would have nominated 8, but someone beat me to it. I have the theme that plays in the very first FMV in 9. I nominated to Zanarkand. I think that Uematsu really nailed the opening themes of pretty much the whole series. Final Fantasy V one in particular, it's maybe a somewhat overlooked track, but one of my probably top 10.
For sure.
Yep. And to Zanarkand hits me in the feels too.
Yeah, that's just very strong, especially, again, I do not like that game. And the other one from that game that I really love is the one that plays at the ending.
Oh my god, that one, talking about feels, Jesus. You listen to that song, you die every time I hear it. I'm like, oh,
there's a reason the commercial for the 10 and 10-2 remaster on Vita was a bunch of people saying goodbye and then crying. That is a completely accurate statement, okay?
like I cried, and I don't even like that game. And that ending was amazing. The music was amazing. The feels were amazing. Everything.
By the way, can I just admit real quick, since we're talking about the feels, that I totally teared up a
Apparently
little
you
bit
can.
on the newest Star Wars trailer. I
Oh,
know we're off topic, but I have to admit that.
Well, it's not off topic.
Yeah,
Final
but,
Fantasy
you
XII
know.
is Star Wars.
Final Fantasy II kind of is Star Wars too. So.
Yeah, it very much is.
Everything is Star Wars.
But you know what isn't? Star Wars.
Not the prequel trilogy.
So does that? So
The
that mean
trilogy
does that
counts.
mean that? Does that mean that George Lucas can ruin anything if everything is Star Wars?
No, he can only ruin prequels to it.
Still haven't
Yeah.
seen Star Wars.
Okay.
Watch the original
Well,
trilogy and play
first-
KOTOR.
First, watch Back to the
Do you
Future.
listen,
Then watch Star Wars.
Machete order, because I did that recently and it makes it so much better.
What the hell is Machete?
Machete order is
It's when you
Machete
watch
order
Machete
is-
in between watching each episode of Star Wars.
It's
shh. Enough of your tomfoolery, Ryushikaze.
it's 4, 5.
It's when you watch 4, 5, and then you don't watch 1 at all. You do not watch episode 1. So you watch 4, 5, then you do 2, 3, and then 6. Because if you watch them in that order, the impact
It's
of
literally an
a
epic.
cliffhanger is kept in the original trilogy, and there are things that are left unspoiled by the prequels. So if you watch it in that order, the entire series becomes better.
So do you watch 1 after you've watched 6?
You can watch it
You
if
can
you want to.
you can watch it after 5. You can do 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and then 6, but they're like. It's amazing how 1 adds like literally nothing.
Yeah.
to
It's
the whole
called Machete
series.
Order because they took a machete to that freaking Haley Joel Osment kid.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
well,
Flint,
except
you
it
should
wasn't
do
Haley
it.
Joel
Osment.
If
It
you're looking
was-
to get into Star Wars, you should watch it in that order.
Jake Lloyd.
Thank you.
Which reminds me, I need to finish watching. Somebody did a recut of 1 and 2, Star Wars episodes 1 and 2. That one of the interesting things that it did was that it redubbed all of the aliens so that they're not speaking English; they're subtitled. And it, took,
I like
it
this.
took liberties with the things they were saying. Same basic ideas, but different words.
Okay. Sorry for derailing the conversation, folks.
You needed
Um,
one, otherwise it wouldn't be a podcast.
I also want to make mention real quick that the Final Fantasy VIII love theme is one of my favorite tracks also, and I fucking hate the game, but that the love theme from Final Fantasy VIII is so
Wait.
good.
Eyes on Me? Or are you
is that the
talking
name
about
of the track?
Roses and Wine?
Eyes on Me is probably the one I'm thinking of.
The
then.
one with actual lyrics.
Or are you talking about the one that plays when they're on the long bridge? Growing Closer, I think it's called.
Shit. It's they did a version of it on one of the Distant World soundtracks, but I can't fucking think of the name of the damn song.
I've got
It's
news for you.
eluding
Like
me.
10 tracks of that thing are love themes because that's mostly a love story.
I
So-
get it. I get it.
But did it have lyrics? Simple question.
No.
Then it was
Wasn't
not
Eyes
Eyes
on
on
Me.
Me.
It was probably Roses and Wine,
Yeah.
which is a good track. I agree.
Or was it Julia, the piano piece?
No. Definitely not that one.
I like Julia. I think it's a good piece. So since we're doing best battle themes, I think a good idea might be to discuss best overworld theme.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
There's the link, by the way, to see if that was the one you're talking about there, Vader.
Yeah, I'm actually pulling up my my iTunes library to
I had to pull
confirm
mine up
here,
to get
so-
the names, man.
Should we just like pause the podcast for half an hour while you look at it and come back?
No.
I mean, we do
You
that on
guys
a regular basis.
Continue.
The listeners never know.
Goodness.
No, I usually edit out a shitload of dead air. So
We take about a half hour in the middle, just play a game of Yahtzee.
I think you're cheating still because the dice are always on your end, man. Why can't the dice ever be with me?
Well, I mean, we had the time when they were in Carlie's, and then,
Yeah,
well,
I got a
you
three
can't even
kind of
talk
truck
about that.
backing
Statute
up.
of limitations hasn't expired.
What?
You know, the thing with the bodies and the that we, you know.
You're gonna have
I
to be
can't
more
because then
specific
we'd
here
implicate
because it's a lot.
Okay, well,
because there's a lot of things with bodies
I know
involved.
it's
Could be
hard to keep
anything.
track.
well, Carlie, Ryu plead the fifth. Best overworld. God.
Gotta start with 7.
Yes, I agree.
Now, is this
I also
just
agree.
the world map or like town themes too?
Yeah, though.
Overworld is just world map. In the case of like 10 and 12, it can be like an area theme, I guess.
Okay.
7.
Probably 7,
I
yeah.
really like the overworld theme in Final Fantasy 12. Did it work this time?
Oh, here we go again.
I'm gonna have to say that there's not a bad overworld theme. Even Final Fantasy VIII, which I know some of y'all don't like, I really like the kind of softer.
Oh, I love Bluefields. Who doesn't like that?
Bluefields is amazing. If I had to choose one that is objectively best, musically speaking, probably does have to go to 7. 7 is just an all-around amazing world map. I have a little bit of softness for one that I just recently discovered was actually Final Fantasy II's overworld map theme. I think is really, really pretty. It's very like soft and mysterious and kind of unusual sounding.
Yeah.
So,
In a similar note, I like Tactics' world map. Best boss theme. Generic or specific?
Genova. And Final Fantasy VI for the generic one. But I think we already covered
agreed
this.
for
Sephiroth theme, because we haven't mentioned that before, one with Angel, because I know some people really hate it.
gotta go with the extreme for final boss. Amazing.
Oh, I kind of agree with the extreme, but I also want to say Birth of a God. But like the extreme for sure.
Say it again, you mean?
Yes.
The extreme is actually really interesting, and I mentioned this briefly in my FF7 OST review, that the extreme actually pulls the arpeggio from The Nightmare Begins from Final Fantasy VII. And it's just really freaking creepy.
I've noticed that as well.
What was
I've only just noticed that now that you have said that. Like, I was thinking about the extreme in my head, and I was like, "What? The nightmares? What?" And then I was like, "It so does. Like, it actually does. That is nuts."
I love your explanation.
Can we throw out Battle on the Big Bridges?
Thank you,
at one of
Carlie.
these?
Absolutely, we can chuck Battle on the Big Bridge.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it is Morphin time.
Oh my god, the freaking Final Fantasy 14 version of that right there for your morphin time. Oh my god.
Did we lose you, Ryu?
Nope. I was holding off
They-
to let somebody else speak, but apparently they were doing the same for me.
I thought you were just
But no,
building
even
suspense.
its original version was great.
What was it again?
Battle on the Big Bridge?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What is interesting to me is, and because I listen to these so often, is that Battle of Golbez's Four Generals and Battle on the Big Bridge have the same base, but they adorn themselves differently, if that makes sense. Sort of, you know, it's but it's they have different patterns of the same elements, and it's amazing how
I've got
different
news for
they
you.
are.
That same base run has been pretty much etched in stone since Final Fantasy II. It's a very, very similar base run across a lot of the battle themes. In fact, you'll hear parts of that in Final Fantasy VI's battle theme, and in part in Final Fantasy V's boss theme. You'll hear the same kind of which is actually kind of a staple of the series in my mind.
Yeah.
I like that beast run.
And just to go back real quick on the, we were trying to figure out which Final Fantasy VIII love theme that I liked. It's actually Love Grows.
That's the one on the bridge. Oh my god, that is an amazing track. Yes.
I was wrong.
It's a beautiful song. Hits you right in the feels. Again.
Okay, I got an odd topic. How about tracks that we really don't like? Sort of an odd negative place to go, but are there any tracks that get under your skin?
How about the whole Final Fantasy XI
Yes.
soundtrack?
You have to be specific, Mike.
Cocoon to Chocobo.
Okay.
Cocoon to
give that man
Chocobo
a medal.
again. And Cocoon to Chocobo yet a third time.
Does My Eyes by Leona Lewis count? Because I fucking hate that song.
Fuck off. That song is fantastic. It's called My Hands, you bitch. And it is great.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Holy
We're bringing
shit,
up
tell
Lex
us
All
how
right,
you
in
really
this
feel.
corner, weighing at he will not tell us. It is Lex. And in this corner, with three evaded felony charges, it is Carlie. Come out swinging, nothing below the belt.
Let's get ready to
That
fix
song
that!
is fantastic. That song is great.
What's hilarious is this is not the worst thing he has called me.
Oh god.
My goodness. Vitriol.
I am mortally offended right now.
I cannot do it on purpose because I know it's gonna annoy him because he loves Leona Lewis and I fucking hate that
I don't
song.
love Leona Lewis.
Yes, you do.
Did not like Leona Lewis, and when I heard they were using that song as the ending theme for Final Fantasy XIII prior to the game coming out, I listened to it and thought, this is terrible pop trash. How fucking dare they? And then I played the game and I got to the end and I shed tears because it's so good and it fits with the game so well. And a lot of people wrote it off because it's like Leona Lewis and she's like, you know, Simon Kill and all that shit. But it's so fitting for the game, it's unbelievable.
That was amazing.
God.
Yeah, you should hear us one of our normal calls because it's just fucking hilarious.
We do enjoy to throw down. We do.
Mostly him insulting me and me letting it go because sometimes his insults are like about certain female things, and that's like, if you weren't gay, that would be very offensive. But since you're gay, it's just fucking hilarious.
I'm not
So-
sure I want to mention anything else, man. I'm not
So
gonna
I'm
I'm
mention
just
one
gonna
I don't
go out
like.
and say
Okay.
the very first dungeon theme in Final Fantasy III, the original. It is atonal, and I don't really like it. The remake had a lot better version of that.
I've never played the original version of it, so
Uh,
I have the
it's,
the only way I know of to get to it is via emulation, so I've not bothered with it.
My least favorite Final Fantasy song is called Hurry Hurry from Final Fantasy V. It plays right at the beginning of the game where the first...
oh yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
they
The
reused
first
that a
meteor
couple
falls.
times, but it's not playing for anywhere near as long the other times in that game.
No.
They and a lot of the other times they've got much better themes for the something very important is happening. Be panicked.
Even Hurry in Final Fantasy VII is better,
Yeah.
just by leaps and bounds.
I find I find that song grating, and I find Pirates Ahoy really grating if it's been on for longer than a minute.
That's true.
But it's a song I do actually like, but Pirates Ahoy is like it's just so constant. It starts to grate, and the one from 7 that grates is I think it might be Chasing the Black Cape Man, actually, which a lot of people really love, but like I think that song really starts to grate on me if it's been on for a while.
Parochial Town, or Parochial Town, or however you pronounce that word. That's
Oh, yeah.
that track just drives me nuts. I like, it's a good one, but it annoys me after like a minute, like you said.
Okay, the one that I absolutely, and this one I really hate the most, is Why in Crisis Core at the end, because it's just completely, it does not fit it. Oh god, just stop. It just doesn't fit at all. It's a fantastic scene, and then you have this stupid Japanese pop song playing over it. It just ruins like this really sad moment. If they would have done like a piano piece of the song, or an orchestra version or something like that, would have worked. But this is no J-pop over a really fucking depressing thing. Doesn't work at all.
There's two for me. There's one that I find really annoying, and then there's one that I absolutely loathe. The one that I find really annoying is from Final Fantasy VIII, Dance with the Balamfish, which plays in Dole. It's this like French thing, which is really freaking annoying because the French can't music. And
that's a bold claim.
I hate it with a passion. It's okay at first, but like if I listen to it for more than 30 seconds, I am clawing at the walls. It's just not a very good track. I don't like it. But the one I absolutely hate, will never listen to, cannot stand it, is in Final Fantasy XIII, Sunleth Waterscape. The freaking vocal poppy singing obnoxious lyrics.
But that's a nice track. Step into the rainbow.
I'm not watching Reading fucking Rainbow here, okay?
You are, and don't you forget it.
That track's okay.
So
that track doesn't bother me.
There's one interesting thing. So that song is in 13.2, but it's only in 13.2 in a 5-foot radius for some bizarre ass reason. Like, you have to be in exactly the right spot of the Sunleth Waterscape area, and then it'll start playing.
I know what you mean. There's that corner that just randomly plays, like in Nautilus plays for that one stretch when you're on the Beast in Sunleth Waterscape.
All right, kids. Well, do we want to read some of the feedback on that we've gotten to our question about favorite songs?
I know Ryu and Jason do, because this is the favorite
one
part
more
of
thing,
them
just
for the
before we end the playlist, one more track. New Bodum from Final Fantasy 13-2. That's a vocal track that I love.
What was it again?
New Bodum from Final Fantasy 13-2. Love it. It's an amazing... It's what a vocal track should be. If you're going to do vocals, make them that.
Okay.
I mentioned that in my town thing, but yeah. Again, shameless plugging.
Okay. So, with that said, we did get quite a bit of listener feedback, and of course, I've delayed on reading some of this here, so we may not get to all of it this episode here, but rest assured, we will definitely get to you eventually. We'll start out here. Jason, do you want to go ahead and summarize your feedback, or do you want to read the whole thing?
Yeah, who's this JasonTandro asshole? I made that joke last
Nobody
time.
likes that
It's
guy.
not funny. Yeah, self-righteous. Yeah, thinks he knows everything. Basically, I summed up what I said here before. Final Fantasy VI is the best. 9, 7, very close contenders. I mentioned that I hate Dance with the Balamfish. In that one, I actually mentioned that. I forgot I put it in there. And every single track for 6 was just amazing. And yes, Carlie, I will be doing the review from 9, so don't worry, that's coming. I'm just working on it. I know you were a huge fan of my 7 OSC review, so thank you. And also, just random comment, this is not on track with the music, but I have to say, Lex's comment about fishing, I think it all depends upon the fishing game. When a game goes over nuts with customization, it's annoying, but when it's like a simple, enjoyable pastime, like the one in Zelda Ocarina of Time, where you're just fishing for fun and it's not, you don't got to worry about it so much, I actually really enjoy that. So I think it all depends upon what game.
Give me a reminder of what it was I said about fishing, because I've not got the context.
We were referring to fishing being like a side item that you can do in Final Fantasy 15. And you were basically saying that you hoped it wasn't overly convoluted with having to go get you could only catch certain fish with certain poles and la-di-da-di-da.
I still think that the best
of course.
fishing minigames ever were Breath of Fire 3 and 4. Which it wasn't rods, it was certain fish reacted to different lures, but you could always buy, like literally at the place you fish, you'd buy the lures to get the fish. And they actually had a use. Like, if you caught a fish, you could use it in battle. You hold it over your head, you literally cast a fire spell. Nobody knows how it works. Nobody.
I like the fishing in 14. I know it's a grindy thing to do, but I still think you can enjoy it. So
fair comments. I just don't want it to be like, you guess how you get Noctis's ultimate weapon. You have to go and beat the hardest boss in the game 75 times because it has like a 3% drop rate, and it drops like a super rare lure. And if you use that rare lure once with the rarest rod you can get from, the epically long quest, and you stand in this one spot, there's a 2% chance that you'll fish a pin out. Like, that's the kind of shit that they do nowadays with this stuff. So
did somebody say Feebass?
I want
thought
that
I heard
kind of
somebody
thing to be
say
avoided.
Feebass. And fuck Feebass.
I thought I heard somebody
Obscure
say-
references I don't
I
understand.
thought I heard somebody mention after years.
Yeah. Pokemon in the 3rd generation, there was one Pokemon that you had to use the right rod in the right spot to have a very rare random chance of even finding. The spot was randomly generated from all available water tiles in a given area.
See, that's the
Yeah.
shit. Oh, no, and no, please don't do that, Square Enix. And Square Enix have been moving in that direction for some time. That is what I do not want. Like, if they do that, I'll be angry. Seriously.
Agreed. Next response we got on this, these were responses we got from our YouTube listeners. Melissa Go said, to answer the question at the end, Final Fantasy VII is my favorite soundtrack. Jonathan R. said Final Fantasy IX was the best soundtrack. And the Gaming Prodigy said Crisis Core is my favorite Final Fantasy soundtrack, or maybe Type 0. You can see a trend here. I like Ishimoto's work, and he did both of those games.
I will say about Ishimoto is very good at what he does. I like that he knows how to use voices, and he knows how to really make voices blend to the characters, and he plays with it. I just don't think he can hold the candle to Uematsu, because Uematsu doesn't use voices, he uses the entire orchestra. He can he's just think about the plethora of styles you've seen in all the Final Fantasy games that Uematsu himself has composed, and look at Crisis Core and Type 0, and it's you really like electric guitar and violin. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm with you. Of course, it's very difficult to try to say that you're going to hold a candle to Uematsu. They don't call him the master for no reason.
True.
Yeah, I do want to thank everybody for responding to our question, and we do want you to keep sending in that episode feedback. And even if you want to keep answering this question long after this episode is posted, please feel free. We will continue to respond to your feedback here. And I think with that said, that's all the feedback we actually got on the music questions. Did anybody else want to say anything else about the music of Final Fantasy before we moved on to regular listener feedback?
The Gaming Prodigy's comment about Ishimoto's work and Typo has reminded me that there is one track I would like to add to the playlist. Sure. There are two from Typo that I really, really like, but one of them is a band, and it's so copyrighted that it's not on YouTube at all. So Bump of Chicken Zero is the song, and it's phenomenal, but you can't get it on YouTube. You can get like a shorter version that was used in at the beginning of the game that's not as good as the actual song, which is used later in the game. That is a phenomenal track. And the one that should be on YouTube, because it's actually Ishimoto, is We Have Arrived. Those are amazing tracks, both of them.
I will add that one to the list. Okay. Anybody else got anything?
Honorable mention as sort of a Final Fantasy song is Eat the Meat from Final Fantasy Legend 2.
Yeah, you actually mentioned that one earlier, and I forgot to mention it here.
And then I don't know if it's honorable or dishonorable mention, but the two vocal songs from 10-2, the Real Emotion and 10,000 Words, or 1,000 Words.
I'm going to come to your house with a fucking pitchfork and a torch.
And, I mean, come on.
We could have an entire discussion about why you are wrong. I'm just going to leave it as you are wrong.
Who? Me or Ryu?
Ryu, are you kidding me? I'm on.
Okay.
Real Emotion made me stop playing 10-2, okay? I turned the console off. I've told this story 3 times on this podcast. I saw that opening cutscene. I turned it off, and me and my sister were sad.
And that's why I said
JasonTandro.
it could be dishonorable mention.
I only have one question. What can I do for you? What can I do for you?
What can ground do for you?
What can I do for
Oh
you?
God.
I
I've
can
started
see you.
playing 10-2, and I know what some of the girls there can do for me, but that can't make it into the podcast, man. That's kind of sketchy right there.
Listen.
Sabizu!
Don't tell us about your sick brother fantasies, man.
Dancing Yuna, I want to see.
That's literally your cousin, dude. Shut up.
So Jason is this podcast.
I mean, you could do
Jason,
worse.
can we check and make sure you have both your thumbs?
One's in a pig right now, so.
Okay.
Wow.
Anybody else got anything on the music front? All right. Well, I think then we can go ahead and move into some listener feedback. Like I said, I've been holding on some of this for a few weeks now. We really appreciate all the listener feedback. Keep it coming. Who wants to take this first one from our friend Sarah?
I'll do it.
Go for it.
Now let's see. Hi guys, thanks so much for reading and responding to my email. I really appreciate it. Don't worry that you can't do British and sexy. I got it covered. I think we've all established that we'll do British and sexy any day of the week. Just gotta let us know.
Or you could let
not
Lex
what I'm
read.
here for.
Where's Joe when
we
you
could
need
have
him?
Let's
Flint
read.
here. We can do Flint.
Or Flint.
We have Flint here.
Flint just came off mute. I think
Flint,
he's trying to say something.
sexy.
I already did, but I got kind
Say
of drowned
something
out in the mess. I just said, sexy and British. I thought that's what I was here for.
And we'll do you
Carry on.
any day of the week. You just have to let us know.
And
Just
we
let
have
us
to
know
put
what
it
I can
on
do for you,
behind
right?
us.
There's a cue.
We should do a section of this music podcast about Final Fantasy songs that can be used as innuendo.
Ugh, that's a lot of them.
I'm sorry,
I like
eat
that.
me.
Roses and white.
That is a victory fanfare.
Only a plank between one and whatever that word is.
Position.
Anyways, I promise this email will be more relevant. Am I happy about all the mobile games? No, not really. I kind of don't care at all. I can totally understand why they do it because the demographic is huge compared to people who play games on consoles, and it's obviously a lot easier than, hence the crazy fast releases, so it makes a ton of sense for them to spew them out. But they're never going to be the really good games, and I don't care about any of them. The only mobile game I'm remotely bothered about is Before Crisis, which obviously we didn't get to play anyway. I may do what one of you suggested and watch a playthrough on YouTube, seeing as how its storyline has been pretty much forced into the main chain of events, and whatever. And I sort of just don't
I
give
have to
any
agree
shits
with her,
about
by the way,
anything
about
Kingdom
Before
Hearts.
Crisis.
Totally not my thing. Why is there so much? Anyways, go on.
No, I was just saying I agree with her about Before Crisis. That's the only one of the mobile games that aside from there's another one that's getting ready to come out, but
Are you talking Unchained
Before
Key?
Crisis would be awesome.
Or the
No,
Type
no,
0
no.
one?
No, not that one either. There's another one we talked about a few weeks ago that looks more like a classic Final Fantasy game, and I can't remember what the hell that one's called.
I
now,
know the one
so-
you're talking about, but it escapes me too.
Yeah.
Dimensions?
No,
No.
I have Dimensions, and I've played that one before too. Totally forgot about that.
Oh.
No, there's another new one coming out. I can't remember what it's called. I'd have to go back and look.
Anyways, back to the feedback.
Yeah.
I'm just about to finish Final Fantasy XII, just side questing before I get on the boat. So I'm pretty interested in an HD remake. There are so many pretty details that would benefit, and it's such a good, solid game. Kind of a shame that there's not the hype and interest there for it, but I get it. We already have a new Star Wars movie. I added that bit. I don't think the story is as deep as, like, Final Fantasy VII, for example, and all of the serious emotional twists are a bit lost because I think you're more or less playing through Van's eyes, and while I like him, if you're made to play through as Balthier, then the main twist might actually affect you rather than being sort of, shame your dad is evil, man. Which, yeah, it kind of is. It really is. Like, I have no emotional connection to this, but that's really shitty, dude. Which they sort of did with Tin, but the main character had an emotional connection to the person the emotional shit was happening to, so it worked.
And then became super relevant.
Yeah.
Later in the plot.
And I like the idea of having both the original and the international Zodiac system, so you can choose. That would be nice. Choice is always nice. I'm also just playing through Final Fantasy IV on my PSP, loving it, but I was wondering if the PSP version is easier than the DS version. Yes, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. Because I've been sailing through, and my brother, who played it on his DS, is so pissed at me for nailing the bosses he took 10 goes to take down. Is that a thing, or am I just better? So, Final Fantasy IV DS is functionally a completely different game than Final Fantasy IV PSP. It has a different difficulty curve. It has different mechanics. It literally introduced an entirely new mechanic. It has the same story, but it's under the hood. It's completely different, and they jacked up the difficulty on purpose.
And it forces you to have to do multiple playthroughs of it.
You don't have to,
in order to,
but
you don't have to. But if you want to boost all your attributes to max, you have to.
Yes. Well,
Final Fantasy IV DS is far too grindy for me.
Agreed.
I was quite astonished.
I never found it grindy,
especially at the end.
Yes, it's definitely much more difficult.
Well, there are just like some enemies towards the end of the game, like in the final level, for example, and they appear starting with one at a time, and it took me like fucking ages to actually kill one of them.
Which enemy?
And then you like the kind of dragon-looking things. I don't remember what they're called.
The Seiryus, the gold and the silver dragons. They can be assholes, but only because they can paralyze lock you.
I don't remember which enemies they were exactly, but they were just doing a lot of damage, and I thought that was pretty bad. But then, kept fighting them, got more XP, started getting easier. Then there's like the one and only save point in the final dungeon, after which there's a massive walk to the final boss, and then they start appearing two at a time, and it's just ridiculous. I just died so many times.
Super
I'll have to look
grindy.
up what they were called.
Yes, I agree with you, Flint.
Back to the feedback. Good to hear you're obsessed with Final Fantasy 15. I think they've been pretty smart with all the ATRs. They're keeping it relevant. The original says jeeping. I don't know if that's Sarah's typo or yours.
No, I copied and pasted directly out of her email.
So they're jeeping it relevant and keeping us all talking about it, even though they're not giving us anything new. Like you all said, you've talked about it every podcast. You must be doing something right. Looking forward to the Fanworks contest. I'm planning on drawing something. All the community events are sounding good. It's great to have stuff going on and drawing people together, like the retrospective too. I think that's a banging idea. It's so long. Don't feel like you need to read it or anything. Well, fine, telling us at the very end. Love all the banner you guys have. Hope you feel better soon, Vader. Take care, everyone. Looking forward to the next podcast. Already recorded. Sarah, thanks for getting my name right. You're also sweet.
Thanks, Sarah, very much for the feedback. It's very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Your emails are always terrific. So don't worry about length. The content's always terrific. So
agreed.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Who wants to take on Team Wingless's?
I got it.
Before you start, Blue Dragon.
Okay.
There you go. Yes. I recall those creatures now, Flint, and yes, you're right.
I thought it was fun. But I've played 4 like 50 times, so.
I like hard games, but I like hard games that give you a chance instead of ones that just have ambushing enemies that do like multiple thousand damage on all party members before you get a turn in the final dungeon where there hasn't been a save point for ages. Maybe that's just me.
You're weird.
From Team Wingless. Hi, replying to episode 5 of your podcast. I caught a lot of complaints and a lot of frustration and animosity that was very long and drawn out. I got the impression that this game has wronged you all a lot. It would almost seem as if you hate this game. Why keep buying them? I hear someone say because it's Final Fantasy. Well, I mean, I hate cigarettes, but I buy them anyway because, cigarettes. I'm also confused about your wishes for the remake. It seems like you got really excited over little things like songs on the radio, etc., and not much about big issues like a coherent storyline. Are you looking for some open-world MMO-style game similar to FF11 set in the universe of 7? Like a light-hearted storyline on the rail? light storyline on the rail, rather. Yeah. I'm just confused about what is actually going on here. You do realize if they remade a game world for word, scene for scene, it would come out something akin to the Dragon Ball Z movie, right? Regards, Team Wingless.
So I think Team Wingless may have gotten confused about what we were talking about at some point here. We definitely, and I have acknowledged this openly, that we have been a bit of negative Nancy's on Final Fantasy 15, although the last podcast, episode 8, I thought we were a little more positive about it, and I felt like we were much better, so...
I think we've addressed that at this point, yeah.
In the in the last podcast, we didn't even say anything negative.
Not at all, but I think this was in reference... I mean, Team Wingless is obviously a few episodes behind here, but regardless, yes, I do feel like we've gotten better about that. As far as him mentioning that we were getting excited about wishes for the remake, and he's talking about songs on the radio, that's actually stuff for Final Fantasy 15. The songs on the radio thing wasn't for Final Fantasy 7 at all.
Yeah.
So I think you're just a tad bit confused there. But as far as an open world MMO style FF11 thing for Final Fantasy 7, I'm not prepared to comment on that, to be honest with you.
I think I don't quite understand. Obviously, we've addressed that there might have been a bit of confusion there, but the part about not being excited about or not talking about the big issues like a coherent storyline or not worrying about a coherent storyline, I've got to say that obviously everyone wants a coherent storyline.
Sure.
So I'm not altogether sure what is meant by that. A bit like when you go on to say about an open world MMO style game similar to FF11 set in the universe of 7 with like a light storyline on a rail. Again, I'm not too sure what you mean. However, I do kind of understand the point you're making that having an open world game is going to affect having a beefy, coherent storyline, because we might end up with something that moves in the direction of Final Fantasy XII if it's, areas between open world like we talked about. You lose pacing with the story if you make a game like that, and that was one of the major complaints about 12. So I think that could be an issue, but obviously if you know the story of 7, and like almost everyone going into it will do, I think it's actually less of one than if you're making a game from scratch. That's just my opinion,
Well, I think, kind of taking a lot of the things there, maybe, obviously there was some confusion again, but I think part of the thing was he was maybe trying to address the point that, like, if we're getting excited over the minor details, are we overlooking the more important issues? I would think, again, once you've listened to all the podcasts and listened to everything we said about 15, you would know that our entire gripe, when we talk about the Dawn trailer, me and Mike were going nuts because our biggest problem was, why wasn't there any story content in this freaking trailer? And yes, there was Creative Ziggy brought up that nice deep analysis, but that's all speculative analysis. So we want a solid story. We want a solid game. We can enjoy a game that has elements in it, even if other parts are bad. For instance, I don't like the story of 10-2 all that much, but the gameplay is solid. But if you ask us, what do you want out of a game? Everyone's going to say, I want a great story. I want great music. I want great gameplay. These are things that everybody who plays games wants. So I don't know if it's necessarily something we have to specifically address. Yes, obviously, like it says, obviously we want a good story. That's a no-brainer, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jason. I think Team Wingless was a slightly confused here, so I'm really just not sure how to respond.
Yeah.
Moving on to another piece of feedback from our friend Sarah, and just to humor her, Lex, would you mind reading this one?
Yes.
For sure. Let's scroll. Okay. So that's the original, there's Team Wingless, and here we are. Okay, from Sarah. Hi. Sorry this is really late. I'm sure I've probably missed you this time, but I really hope you do the next podcast on FF music. That would be seriously cool and interesting. Well, you've come at the right time.
What a good idea.
Yeah, we're never going to do that.
That sounds like a lame
Let's just scrap
idea.
this
We
whole
probably
thing.
shouldn't do it. No, that's like a stupid idea.
I don't know that much about the soundtracks from all the different games. I listen to the FF7 soundtrack while I'm doing coursework and I like it, but I couldn't tell you why I like it. Maybe it's a mystery, but I just feel like I know it so well now. I definitely enjoy the Crisis Core soundtrack, maybe because it's reasonably heavy and rockish, which is my kind of thing. How awesome is Lex's accent, by the way? Even if it's not British, but if Ryu can manage British, it's all good.
I'll give you some Welsh.
Lex, do respond to this.
Thanks for telling us everything else that went on at TGS. I watched the ATR when they translated it, but I missed all that other stuff. Definitely agree that the Plague of the Star thing sounds very exciting and intriguing. And can I just say congratulations for the new FF15 positivity. It's really nice to hear. Listen to you all soon. Peace, Sarah. That's lovely. That's a nice comment.
It is. It is. That's exactly why I wanted you to read it.
Fair enough.
As to Sarah's remark about the Crisis Core soundtrack being reasonably heavy and rockish, and that being her kind of a thing, I feel you. To each their own, and there are some very good songs from the Crisis Core soundtrack. In fact, we mentioned of a couple of them earlier. So yeah, I'm with you, Sarah.
For sure.
Next we've got some YouTube remarks here. Actually, I think it's just a couple of them. Flint, you want to read these couple here?
Yeah, as soon as I find them.
First, turn the monitor back on.
Turn off the porn, Flint.
He doesn't have to turn that on. He can keep it on in the background.
I don't watch porn when I'm listening to you guys talk.
I know. What do you need? What else do you need porn for, right?
I am talking, and you are now aroused.
And by us. And by us,
No,
LOL.
you've got fans as well, Carlie. Carlie, you've got a very
Hey,
sexy
She
accent
definitely
too.
does.
Hey, I'd like to point out that Lex likes my sort of southern twang, so...
I do. I enjoy a southern twang in my American accents. Mm-hmm. That's why I miss GLD so much.
I'm going to have to read Shattered Glass 23's comment in a full southern twang just for Lex.
Okay, you do that one. I'll do Creative Ziggy's comment. I don't even know how to pronounce this
Intama.
first word. Jintama? Oh, okay. Intama. Also, I really do hope that Luna and Noctis fight. I want to see her kick
By the
his
way, that
spiky
word
ass.
for everybody means both gold ball and testicle.
I think I would like to point out that spiky ass was not followed by the obligatory comma, then fool.
Right.
Okay, Shattered Glass 23. Please don't emulate so much. Buy physical copies. For some games, I get it, but as retro modern gamers do, too much emulation makes me sick. Take good care. Hi, and who am I? Glad to hear that from you.
Hold up just a second. This is actually two different remarks. So let me put some context to this real quick.
Okay.
So
I was wondering.
he had made mention that he didn't agree with the fact that Ryu kept suggesting that we emulate some things. And I wrote him back and I actually said to him, I'm not emulating hardly anything at all, that I actually own most every single Final Fantasy game out there, and I would only emulate if I absolutely had to, basically. Hence his follow-up remark next, which is the hi and
Hooey! Am I glad to hear that from you? Really enjoy honesty regardless of whether I agree all the time or not. Very enjoyable conversations you guys have. Keep up the great work, and thanks for supporting the JRPG when people like Adam Sessler are trying to bury it.
Thank you for that, Jason.
I think you're good to
speak
go
on
right
the
now, man.
emulation thing.
You just made Lex
I'm
9.
only suggesting it because there are some that you really cannot find or are at ludicrous prices. So, like, the only way to get some of this stuff is to emulate.
Lunar 2.
yeah. Well, I was going to say, Final Fantasy, if you want to play the original version of Final Fantasy 3, that's the only way. If you don't speak Japanese, that's the only way you can play Final Fantasy 3. And I think I mentioned that unless you're going to pay an absurd amount for the Game Boy Final Fantasy games, I'm probably going to have to emulate those too. So, So our last piece of feedback here, it comes actually from the Lifestream.net forums, and is from the AKU. And Carlie, why don't you go ahead and take this one?
Okay. Personally, I'm excited about Kingdom Hearts 2.0 for the same reason that I was excited for Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5. I love that it allows me the opportunity to explore the game's stories from this series that I would not otherwise be able to because they had only been released in Japan or on gaming platforms, which I do not myself play. I can relate to that. As I am not a person who feels one should have to buy multiple consoles, one isn't actually going to use for anything else just to get the whole story in one particular series. I can also relate to that. I would actually be thrilled if we learn its release that actually Stella is going to be in Final Fantasy 15 too. After all, I miss Stella. I personally find her character far more interesting than Luna, and I was really looking forward to learning more about her and how her story actually intersects with Noctis or not, and why exactly they were forced to fight each other. I hate that I have been waiting for this game since the first trailer hit, but after Revenge Children came out, and now that is just one of the things that makes it so... It kind of feels like that's not even remotely the game we'll actually finally be getting. But that is the game that I actually want. It makes me feel betrayed a little, and I think that if they must have Luna, it should definitely be in addition to Stella and not in place of Stella altogether. I mean, it could be really interesting if they had two sisters who don't necessarily agree on how best exactly to try look after their kingdom or whatever in the face of being conquered by tyrants or whatnot, and therefore have completely different stories, interactions, encounter, or whatever with Noctis or something. Maybe? Don't know. I feel like the Oracle thing has been done before, just about to death, yep. And I also kind of feel like Luna is sort of just them caving to people pressure demand that they include a female lead, specifically protagonist or whatever. So I basically feel about Luna the same way you lot feel about the idea of Muggles or whatever being added in later only
Holy
if the
shit!
man is high enough.
There should be some punctuation in here.
I think it's all at the end. I think it just fell a bit. Yeah, there we go. There's 5 periods in a row at one point. I think they all just sort of, filtered down there.
I swear to God, the next podcast I'm going to start reading this feedback as strong bad, pointing out every punctuation issue.
Okay, if it's an actual part of the game, then yeah, sure, go ahead. But if it's not, then don't just shove it in just because people wanted. I was totally okay with Versus being different from other Final Fantasy games and having only male playable characters, but having Stella, a complex and mysterious female character who wasn't necessarily a playable party member, but was still an equally important element of the plot story. And this is just part of why I'm actually pretty reluctant to get excited much, if at all, about the game anymore until I can actually play it for myself ever since the change in title, console, platform, and who was heading the project all happened. I am also still a bit miffed that it's not going to be a PlayStation exclusive game anymore. Also, I don't know why, but for me, there was just something about being able to have that exclusivity in a Final Fantasy game again, which really
what are you
appealed
going
to
you
me.
can go to your
I don't know
Exponer
why.
friends.
LOL.
You can go to your Exponer friends and go, ha, you can't get this, you can't get this.
The idea of fishing, and it just makes me think of Gaia Online. Fishing on there was actually ridiculously fun, so I hope the same will be true for it in Final Fantasy 15. As for the Final Fantasy Adventure remake, I'm pretty excited to learn about it because I have always wanted to play those old Final Fantasy games that weren't really Final Fantasy games, but have never gotten to, so that's pretty exciting news for me. That I will now finally be able to play. What?
I will now finally
be able to play at least one of them.
I will now finally be able to play at least one of them. All 2 people are not on fire.
And when it comes to World of Final Fantasy, I can actually see both the cute and not so cute sides of it. Still, I am a little intrigued by it.
Let me just jump in real quick. I want to say Final Fantasy Adventure is a real Final Fantasy because it had the Final Fantasy title even in Japan. It's the Final Fantasy Legends that aren't real because they were just Saga.
Yeah. as far as one good game that isn't, or that's really a Final Fantasy but isn't a main series one, just a random side note, I just thought of it. If you get a chance, the AKU, if you haven't played it yet, look up Ehrgeiz.
Yeah.
That is actually a pretty fun PlayStation 1 game. So.
And then also
Anyways.
Mystic Quest, which is but interesting.
Okay. I don't really do mobile gaming though, so I am always kind of just annoyed when mobile games come out because it means that I probably won't be checking it out. Even when they are rare ones, occasionally actually catches my interest, lol. And I really can't pick one singular favorite Final Fantasy soundtrack. But if I really had to, it would probably be either from 6 or one of the 7 games or not one of the 7 games or 9 or maybe 10. But I can't give you very good feedback on it really right now because I haven't been able to really just sit and listen to any of them for a while because my old computer that had all of those kinds of things stored on it for me crashed a while back, so I fell a little out of habit.
I sympathize with that aspect right there because I mean he named like 6 games right there and it's just
If
like,
I had
but
to do
you know,
one, I could choose maybe 4.
but that's the challenge of Final Fantasy music.
I know
It's like
exactly what he means. I just find the specific phrase. If I really absolutely had, gun to my head, had to choose one of 4?
Yeah, and real quickly, I do want to clarify that AKU, I'm not picking on you for your lack of punctuation. I was just laughing at the fact that Carlie was breathlessly reading your remarks.
She was really into it.
I read really I read and talk really fast, especially in Spanish. It's like Puerto Rican.
You hear that, Spanish listeners, who for some reason can also understand English? Read your feedback in Spanish, and she will translate it on the air.
Absolutely.
What?
¿Quieres tu fuego?
Yeah, those are not actual sentences in Spanish.
¿Cómo te gusta mi pequen en su boca?
No.
That's how would you like my dick in your mouth? Come on.
Yeah, her answer is no.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So you understand? Okay, I thought you were just saying no.
¿Quieres tu fuego?
Incidentally, your Japanese phrase for the day, because we like to teach kids Japanese. Your Japanese phrase for the day, for ever in Japan and you do something stupid, say "Sumimasen baka nagaijin desu," which is, my brother taught me this. It's, excuse me, I'm a stupid foreigner.
Yeah. Here's my fun thing that you can say before you say the phrase that you just got taught. It's "Oni-chan ga oichii desu," which is, and that's specifically in a little child voice. Big Brother is delicious. Now, you can take that one of 2 ways. I suggest taking the cannibalist way, because that's better than the alternative.
Okay.
Wow.
That got dark real quick.
I think this is a good place to end it.
When cannibalism is the better of 2 options, you know it's time to quit.
And that brings us to the show close.
Yeah, for sure. So, this week's question for the listenership: what is the most underrated Final Fantasy game, and why do you feel that way? Looking forward to getting some of the responses on that.
If somebody doesn't say Crystal Core, or Chronicles, I will be gobsmacked.
Well, there is an answer, but I'm sure we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, and I also want to say this. I know we've got a lot of listeners out there. I mean, we've got almost 400 listeners or views on our last the Final Fantasy Retrospective series podcast. I know the listeners are there, and we do want to hear from you guys. So please continue to send your questions and feedback to us at lifestreampod@gmail.com. You can also reply to the episode posts each week on the TLS.net forums, and we really are trying to drum up business for the Lifestream.net. Please join up if you're not a member already, and join in on the fun we're having. Please also leave us feedback on iTunes. I know I've been pleading about this for a while now, but we really would appreciate some feedback on iTunes, and we will do our best to read your questions, comments, and feedback on the air as always.
And for each person who comments on iTunes, Mike will take an article of clothing off on the air.
Not that it
I
would
don't
make much of a difference.
yeah,
That's the point.
Also, for
yeah,
each one who does,
Oh, go ahead.
I will put one on.
And yeah, I think with that said, we'd like to thank you again for listening to the Lifestream Podcast. Take care and always protect the crystals.
Music featured on this podcast is courtesy of Incompetech.com.